Well, joining me now is a reservist in the Israeli Defence Force who's here in the UK, Captain Eyal Biram. Very good to talk to you. Thank you for joining us. So you're over here studying for a year.
Yes.
It must have been incredibly difficult for you to see what was happening at the weekend from a distance and digest the information because you know a lot of people involved.
Fortunately, I lost 9 of my friends in the last week during both the Music Peace Festival that started the terror attack and during the fighting against Hamas terrorists to get control again in the villages that they entered and invaded. And it's very difficult, not just thinking about my friends, but I'm thinking about the women, babies, and other families that were burned alive or just slaughtered in the beds. And I think any human beings cannot just go away and not have empathy for this horrible situation and condemn Hamas, the terror organization, for what they did.
Has it changed anything in your mind? I mean, you were, a captain in reserve in the IDF. You had worked there and carried arms. Has anything changed in your mind when you think about Hamas and when you think about the role of Israeli forces in Israel?
It's totally changed. I think we first time understand that Hamas is like ISIS. We have to destroy this organization, not against the Palestinian people, but against every human being, because what they are doing, they are not identifying between Israelis and non-Israelis. There are 36 other nationalities that have been murdered during this attack. And we've been collected 1,200 people that have been murdered, but unfortunately, I think we'll see more. And this war is not started in order to do something else rather than destroying Israel and killing as many people as we can. And I've been speaking with my friends yesterday, and they told me how they entered one of the houses and they saw a baby that was beheaded. And I think that is something that any human being cannot just face and not condemn and think that we have to destroy any organization, and especially if it's similar to ISIS, and do exactly what the war did on the time when ISIS were alive.
You're still here. We know that lots of people who are reservists in the IDF have gone back to Israel. What are your thoughts about that?
I'm still thinking about it, and I think right now there is an importance both on reservists in Israel, but also on sharing the truths of what's happening there on the ground. I think we do have horrible stories and the media speaking about it and showing a lot of empathy. But I think even by speaking about it, we cannot even imagine how horrible this moment was. And on Sunday morning, when I spoke with one of my friends after about 24 hours that they were fighting there in the Gaza border, he told me, Eyal, I will never believe that during my life, I will see kids like my baby, 6-month-old babies that were slaughtered in the beds. And we should not say more.
We spoke to a doctor in Gaza just a few minutes ago, and he's a plastic surgeon. He's treating children there who are being affected by Israeli bombing, which is happening now in retaliation for what happened at the weekend. How do you feel about that?
I feel bad about every human being. That's the truth. And I think that the problem, and this is the problem that we face, that Hamas put himself under the human shield, which is the kids, the babies in Gaza. And that's why the main headquarters of Hamas is behind the Shifa hospitals. And I think about this doctor, and he has a very complicated mission, while I think that also when the world were fighting ISIS, we should destroy the ISIS and we should make sure that it will not be growing for in other areas. And that's why all the international community was against ISIS then, and that's why all the international community should be against Hamas right now. And this is not against the Palestinian people, against Hamas. And I hope that we will do it as soon as we can, because it will be both good for the Israelis, for the Palestinians, and for the entire world.
As somebody who knows what it's like to be there on the ground, Israel is now planning what it does. It seems like a ground invasion is likely. There are huge challenges, aren't there, going into Gaza, as an Israeli soldier. How hard would that be for your colleagues who are there on the ground to go into somewhere which is urban, built up, filled with civilians, and try to just get Hamas? It seems like an impossible task.
To be very difficult, and I think that's why the IDF right now is preparing to have a counterattack and to, first of all, to bring the hostages back to Israel. I know that part of them already have been murdered, and videos were sent to their family, unfortunately, in order to make a psychology war and try to affect them. But we do believe that that's going to be very complicated. I personally have been in Gaza in 2014 during the operation there, when about 14 talents were dug into Israel in order to do the similar thing, but then we were able to destroy them before the attack was taking place. So I believe it's going to be a very difficult mission, and I believe what the world needs to do is to support Israel while they're doing it, of course, by making sure that we, differently than Hamas, we are a country, democratic country, that take care about the warfare. This is something that we do. And I think regardless of what's happening about the Israelis that have been murdered by Hamas right now, there are Hamas terrorists that try to kill Israelis, but right now being treated in Israeli hospitals while we are speaking. And this is something that will not happen in any other country, not in a democratic country like Israel. And this is who we are, but our humanity is not only the only way to face it, we also should strike back. Because our enemy is inhuman. And being butchers that killing babies, there is not any other word, rather describing that as an inhuman terrorist activity.
How do you feel about the future of Israel as a country after what has happened? Has something changed within Israel, amongst your friends, amongst your family that you've spoken to?
Absolutely. And I think we still cannot even imagine how it will affect. But in any way that we know Israel, I think this war will change what we know about Israel and also about the Middle East. It's changing, I think, the world understanding of the Western world. And that's why President Joe Biden, including also Prime Minister Rishi Sunak, not just condemning Hamas, but also President Biden sent his forces to Israel. And I think it's an understanding that it's not just a geographical fight between Israel and Hamas. This is a fight between the dark side of the world and the bright side of the world, between democracy and freedom and against the other sides. And that's why the same ammunition that's been used against the Israeli forces on Saturday morning when they invaded the villages are the same one that's been used in Ukraine and Iranian weapons. And this is the truth, and this is what the entire world right now is facing.
Eyal Biram, a captain in reserve at the IDF. Very good to talk to you today. Thank you for coming in and joining us.
Thank you very much.